Morning, guys. I just want to talk about the US Senate stuff today. I've got to play with my light a little bit. That's better. Um, it's an interesting one because it's how it just doesn't, the dots just don't seem to get connected. See, the funny thing is, I'm looking at similar stuff in the UK at the moment from a slightly different perspective, in the sense of they're talking about the police having the authority to come in and inspect you in your house to see whether you're breaking COVID restrictions. It's your space. In the same way, where they're talking about, they brought out all this legislation about how people can operate inside a business space. It's your business. What bothers me is, if I own the shop, I own the business, I take the liabilities on. It's called liabilities insurance for a start. You put the insurance on there to cover your back on that stuff. So the point is, I am responsible for people inside that business. Now I'm just waiting for the first legal cases where people turn around and go, you know what, Matt, I was in your shop and I caught COVID, so I'm suing you. That hasn't happened though, has it? I haven't seen that work in any workplace, because that would be the interesting one that would actually set the standard. Stephen Birth, second take. Good morning, sir. Yeah, the light fell over on the first one, so deleted it. Yeah, because it's still a little bit dark here in Spain. It's been raining. The rain's quite heavy outside, so it's a bit gloomy today, probably till about lunchtime. Good morning, sir. Yeah, so the point being is, the whole Senate scenario was expected as far as I'm concerned. I mean, if you speak to a lot of people, they're wondering where the tipping points are, because the UK is getting to a similar state. Now, I see a lot of people complain and whine about Boris. At the same time, you'll get politicians and some media groups saying how he's supported in the media. Yet, I disagree. One of the big problems you've got in the UK is there is a severe lack of leadership, in my personal opinion. I don't think there is anybody fit to lead, or at least recognisably somebody who could lead the country. So the point being is, going, oh, he's leading in the polls. Against who? Because if you've only got one person on the list, there's no surprise there, is there? And this is the point. I think we're reaching that bit where the media are struggling to control things, because it's like the Senate scenario today. We already know they're going to be drumming the negative stuff. I mean, I was on Facebook this morning. I've seen a thread around it where there's, I mean, to be fair, it's predominantly Americans, because obviously it's in America. And somebody was on about they're criminals, they're doing a criminal act, and I just explained to them, I says, look, you've got two scenarios here. They're a criminal unless they win. If they suddenly overthrew the government, set the new government, they're no longer criminals, they're martyrs. Anybody who gets killed is a martyr, whether we like it or not. And in the same way, you've got RT, Russia Today media already saying, well, the Americans supported this in Ukraine. Where else was there? Well, I'm trying to think. It wasn't. Was it Kosovo? I don't think it was Kosovo. But basically, interfering in other people's politics is fine in that sense, where you're looking to overthrow a government and remove the democratic process of election. Whether you agree if it being flawed or not is irrelevant. But actually overthrowing a government is perfectly fine if it's with somebody who's got more of a political agenda or there's a financial benefit in it. That's fine. And this is where it all becomes very orientated around hypocrisy, because now it's like, well, these people are criminals. And I'm like, are they though? Because you support it when it suits, which means we're now in a very grey area because it's on local soil. In other countries, fine, you can walk away from it. On your own soil, it's far, far more difficult. Yeah, Stephen Berth, I've seen it. Have a good day, pal. Just going out. All right, take care, mate. Hope it ain't raining there. So for me, I think we're at a very precarious point in time, because the COVID situation is magnifying issues. I look at the COVID situation in a bigger picture. I've got to admit, I'll take it from the UK perspective because to be fair, I don't really follow the US too much. I try and avoid it because I know the media is, for my personal opinion, is very skewed. So actually getting valid information can be very, very difficult because the media is skewed either one way or the other. The UK is very skewed, seems to be all one way, but at least I can actually see it when I'm out and about. The UK seems to be going down this route of directing people down this tunnel. The tunnel is basically, we don't force people to have the COVID vaccine, but we'll keep going into lockdowns. We keep going to a point where they're on about rolling out 2 million vaccines a week. If they're doing 2 million vaccines a week, I'm not being funny, that will eat through the vulnerables that are supposed to be getting the vaccine very, very quickly. So the point being is, why do we need so many vaccines at that point? Because they want to vaccinate the entire population. I was also reading, watching on the Spanish news today, they're talking about the fact that the vaccine doesn't actually prevent you from getting COVID. So I assume it's going to operate very similar to the flu virus, where one of the guys I was working with, well, I do work with, he was on about, he took the flu jab, his wife didn't. He got really ill with the flu, his wife didn't. So the point being is, I don't think we get enough information out about the actual alleged full-blown vaccine to actually give it some validation. I don't think there's been enough around any side effects and things like that, because quite simply, I've heard very little to no information. I haven't seen any media group going, this is what it says in the small print. Has anybody seen any information on the small print? And I'm not talking about somebody on YouTube or something. I'm talking about a mainstream media outlet actually discussing what people are actually taking. I have not seen that taking place anywhere. Tingles, they're talking about cancelling the local election once again in May. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think there's a risk of Boris being thrown out. But as I keep saying to people, to replace him with who? You know, this is reality in the UK. Who do you replace him with? Theresa May was behind Boris. She was no better or worse than Boris. They're both incapable. They both seem like they were some alien Doctor Who. You know, the ones that wear their skins and take over the government. They seem that incompetent, in my personal opinion, that they fit that profile. Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about people actually being aliens. I'm just talking their level of incompetence is the sort of level of incompetence I would expect in a Doctor Who series of a government being taken over in the UK. They just seem to fit that persona. Whether Doctor Who went down that route in the first place, because I don't think we've had any proper leadership in the UK, whether we, for a long time, whether we love him or loathe him, Tony Blair is probably the last bit of leadership we had. Now, don't get me, my personal opinion, he's a lying, scheming, self-serving parasite, but he actually had an objective and went for it. These other ones are ditherers. They have no thought process of A to B. It just doesn't seem to occur. So, I mean, with the COVID situation, if you turn around and say, right, we're going to deal with it, going into lockdown this way, and that's the way forward, fine. If it reaches this level, we will come down to locking down an area for a period of 1 month. That's it. You set these targets and you say, that's it. It's not going to change every week. This is it. That's what we're working with. You now know how we're dealing with this. But what I'm seeing now is this whole, let's lock down areas. The next one will be, okay, we're rolling out the vaccine. So the vaccine will get you out of lockdown. They're talking about now, when you go back to the UK, you're going to have a negative COVID test. So, hey, you're going to need one to come to Spain and you're going to need one to leave Spain. There you've just trebled the cost of traveling to Spain. And for what? Because surely if I go, I'll just take the 14-day quarantine because I work at home anyway. Surely that's fine. Is there any evidence that me paying through the nose for a test that's not 100% accurate is going to prevent it? If I have COVID, what are you going to do? These things are already half-baked ideas that the government are working on. Simply, I would have just gone, just keep the quarantine stuff, 14 days. It's going to make no difference anyway, in the sense of, if you come here to Spain and you're staying in your own areas or whatever, fine. You're not bothering anybody. Maybe you could wear a different coloured mask saying, I've got 14-day quarantine. But the point being is, I don't see the point of the tests. I get my test this morning and I catch it on the way to the airport. Doesn't make any difference. 14-day quarantine, get home, sit there for 14 days, problem solved. I'm not near anybody. And like I said, if you give color-coded masks, I think that would be half the battle. Just say, stay 4 meters away from me. I don't think it's that hard. But I'm not the British government, and it's always easy to have armchair politics. But I do think the way they're funneling it now down this tunnel will be to get as many people to take the vaccine as possible by force. And when I say force, I'm not talking about them holding you down. They will use political force and media. I see on the Post, for example, around the groups in Spain along the coast. The interesting things about the groups on the coast is they have a very channeled mindset, because the age is often 60 plus. So you'll often get a very is it self-serving? I wouldn't say self-serving, because I don't think they actually mean to do it, but it's about me. So, like, for example, my daughter works in the NHS. She has to wear masks and do all this, blah, blah, blah. Let's clap for the nurses. At the same time, if you won't wear a mask going to the local supermarket, you're an idiot. That's very me. There's reasons some people don't wear masks. And one of the fundamental ones, I think, for some people is not only for medical reasons, but also the fact that people realize and know that a lot of the information is not correct on whether it prevents the spread of COVID. So the point being is, although it's a small step in the sense of I'm not too fussed on wearing a mask or not, but it's like, right, wear a mask. Okay, if you go into a building, you need to wear, keep 2 meters apart. You've got to do this, you've got to do that. And suddenly you're thinking, well, why is that an issue? For me, the first one is, it's a private business. That premises is owned by a business. That business should be the ones that dictate what their rules are inside their store or whatever, not the government. That's my personal view on that. I think it should be, there's the guidelines, it's up to the business. And I think that's where it started. But now look at it. It's pretty much enforced everywhere. Because the next thing is, what's your opening times, your closing times? Let's change the laws. And nobody's even challenging this stuff, from what I can see. I know there's been some courtroom stuff going on, but what's actually done? Absolutely nothing, because they're just blanking it. UK wild camping, people don't stay in. Missing the other half of the sentence. Tingle tingles, Matt takes his mask off, David Icke underneath. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, me, like I said, I've got no issue with wearing a mask. It's more to do with the politics behind it. Because what I'm seeing, the way they're on about, we'll start making you have a test before you can travel. The next thing will be, well, if you've had a vaccine, we'll stamp your passport or something. So then, look, it's not just the vulnerable, it's whether you want to travel, you've got to have the vaccine. Then the next thing is they start going to businesses. Well, how about we just make it, if people can come in it's up to you, but you may choose to only let people in your business, like go at the pub. Pubs are vulnerable space. As long as everyone's had the vaccine in there, they can come in your pub. Wouldn't that be feasible? Wouldn't that be fair? And that's where I think some of this will be heading in the near future. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, like I said, I was watching the Spanish news, and like they're saying, it doesn't guarantee that you're not going to get COVID. I think it's actually turned around like the flu. Is you're still going to get it, it's just not as bad. But then I'm sitting there going, but it seems to affect people that are either already having underlying conditions or are over a certain age and likely to have health conditions anyway. So that's the two main ones that are affected. And to be fair, I don't see neither of those. I can understand if I'm 60 and I'm nowhere near 60, by the way, that if I choose to go and get it, so thinking, you know what, I'll go and get it. That should be my choice. Now, don't get me wrong. This COVID scenario, we are not going to get rid of COVID. I mean, I'm looking at the US stuff, thanks to the Senate today, and they have a ridiculous amount of kids. I think they said 2 million kids have got COVID currently. But that's herd immunity. I mean, this is the thing. We're not going to prevent this stuff, whether we like it or not. And it's a bit like I was reading a BBC article. When was it? 2 days ago. And it was discussing why there's going to be tougher measures. And instantly you can just line out the lines that actually say this isn't fact. No, it's not David Icke. It's literally, if you read the media with it, simple things like could, possibly, maybe, our sources, likely, assumed. These types of wordings instantly make anything they put after it is not fact. It's simply an assumption. So without that, or it's got a political bias behind it, but it's certainly not fact. It's not going, John such and such said this based on this information, this statistics, which was taken from this. A lot of that information isn't there. I mean, they were on about, I think it's 1 in 50 households may have COVID, may have or may not, according to the national statistics, the Office of National Statistics, but it didn't even follow up with based on what information. And it didn't even say who, who said it maybe. These are key elements when you're actually trying to make something factual. And that's the concerning bit. When those bits are missing, it is concerning. Balut John Baker, hi from Fargo, North Dakota, USA. Hey, how you doing? UK wild camping, when they come from abroad for their 14 days quarantine, don't they stay at home? It doesn't matter where you're going, though. If you've got a 14-day quarantine, it's like me coming to Spain. I stay in my house. Now, a lot of the hotels are still not open in Spain. So there was a whole thing. This is the Brexit thing today. Because of the Brexit and the COVID scenario, there was Spanish residents of British people that are residents of Spain prevented flying into Spain by British Airways. Now, they say British Airways, but there's a bit more bureaucracy on there. I would assume they phoned the Spanish immigration office and they've gone, no, you can't come in, even though they've got their little green cards, which say they're resident of Spain. And then BA took all the flack. Just my personal opinion. Because I had the opposite way around, where when we were flying to the UK, the first thing the air courier did was rang the airport office for immigration in the UK that said, no, you can't come in. And then they rang a different immigration guy, says, yeah, it's no problem. At which point we got on the plane. The point being is they go British Airways because it's very easy. Big BA, rather than go Joe Blogs from Spanish immigration, can give that information out as a private telephone call. British Airways makes it easy. The point being is they couldn't come back to Spain because of the COVID restrictions. And you will get media turn around and say, it's Spanish punishing the British for Brexit. It's got nothing to do with it. Coming to Spain, you've got to have a reason to come here. And coming here for a 2-week holiday is not one of them. You've got to be a resident. You've got to have business here. You've got to have a reason to travel. Tourism isn't acceptable. So yes, when they come from abroad for their 14-day quarantine, they don't stay at home. They don't have to though. They have to stay in one location. So they could stay in a hotel for 14 days. They could stay at a friend's house for 14 days. As long as they're locked into one area, it wouldn't be an issue. I mean, at the end of the day, there's no evidence that this actually prevents it. They say it may do, and that's what gets back to what I was saying. It may do. In the same way, they said, oh, cases are up 40% at this time in the hospitals compared to when the pandemic started. Of course, it was over the winter period because it's the flu season. Automatically, it's going to be higher. Cases in hospitals will automatically be higher because when this first started was February, March last year, which is obviously towards the end of the flu season last year, where obviously we're at a peak point of people going into hospital. And if you look at flu cases and all that, that's tailored off. Whether we like it or not, they're fiddling the stats all the time. Balut John Baker, I'm reading the book Vaccine Nation by Andreas Mortez. I haven't read that one, but I'll have a look into it. But the main thing here is this is all gets back to the Senate information, which gets back to the point of the original title of the video. Is this distrust of government is going on in multiple locations at the same time? The overthrowing of the Senate today, in my personal opinion, it's overthrown the Senate by taking over control of the Senate building, is part of a tinderbox. This is people that do not trust the government. This is people that, if they got enough numbers, could actually overthrow a government. And I will say the UK is lucky on that side because there's a complete lack of leadership. So there's nobody standing there going, I'll take control, I'll do this, I don't believe the government. There's nobody there. So the UK side, they'll just go on Facebook. They're not actually going to do anything. I mean, that's the thing. I try to keep out of, they said this, they said that. I try to avoid all that because I see, and there's certain people I watch on YouTube, for example, because I watch them for news headlines. I don't actually watch their videos. I just watch to see what they're talking about. Then I'll go and have a look and see, that's what they're talking about. Because often it's very, very manipulated. But you've got to see it from both sides. My main concern at the moment is the distrust in government and the distrust in a lot of media. Because if there's no distrust in if there's no trust in those, it's very easy to change a government. Very easy. You just need something that can trigger a change of direction. I mean, people remember the poll tax riots of the UK. That's a lot of disgruntled people that had to pay some money to the state and they didn't like it. I've got to admit, I wasn't a fan of the poll tax myself either because it's probably the lowest I've ever earned in my lifetime. I was just a student at the time and got hit with a fine. I was only on £30 a week back then. But yeah, not a fan of that. But at the same time, it actually changed the government. Tingleton, I haven't traveled since January last year. Do you remove your mask in the airport going through immigration security areas and at the gate? Yes, you do in all three. You have to wear it pretty much everywhere else, but obviously because they have these scanners now, you take it down for the scanner, they scan it, you walk through. If the scanner doesn't work, like my passport, the chip doesn't work on it. I basically they look at my passport, drop your mask, put it back on. But yeah, you have to take your mask down in those areas. Not all the way through security. So the baggage handling, you just wear your mask. But it's literally just where you're having your passport checked and boarding the plane. Because they just want to validate against your passport it is you. But everywhere else, no, they don't. It's the same as I paid £185 for the COVID test. Nobody asked for it. And I know pretty much everybody who's come to Spain that I've spoken to that have had it have never been asked for it. Now, don't get me wrong, the Spanish government are more clued up than they're given credit for a lot of the time. So I wouldn't be surprised if they knew you had it or not, because that information, we're not told where it goes, do we? When nobody tells us what they do with our information. So it could already be fed. Like, this is the plane. Everybody's got their COVID documents, and they've sent them all to the Spanish authority. Spanish authorities already confirmed it, so they don't bother checking anybody's paperwork. Could be as simple as that, because why would you want to check everybody's paperwork going through an airport? It's a nightmare. Darren2697, hello from sunny Australia. Hey, how's it going? Hope all's well in Australia. Just my 2 cents worth. To me, from down under is the overthrow of the Senate looks like a bit of a setup, possible to make the new president look good. It's a difficult one, because one of the problems you've got there is his tone when he was talking about it all being bad was very, like talking to naughty school kids. If you have people that are this way already inclined, in the sense of they're already believing that the election was fraudulent, etc., it only throws petrol on the fire. It's not going to put a flame out. It makes it worse. So that's the concerning thing, because how do you reinforce some trust? Because that's what a lot of this problem is. It's a lack of trust. I mean, we're looking at where we are in 2021. I think most of you guys will be exactly the same, wondering, where are we going now? I mean, the UK seems to be changing its mind day to day, and I'm sure that Philippines, for example, I know some of you guys are out there, are still looking at moving forward. But I know they're a lot more strict over there on the lockdowns. But at the same time, Spain's just going to be on a constant. I think we've got a 5 p.m. curfew now. But to be fair, life's pretty normal beyond that. It's not really impacting everything the same way it does in the UK, because I work in the UK, so it's a bit more of a pain in the UK. If I worked here in Spain, very likely I probably couldn't go to work, because they were shutting at 5 p.m. Either they're going to be working less hours or not working at all. Because obviously they normally have a long lunch and then come back from about 5 to 8 o'clock. So you lose about 3 days pay, 3 hours pay a day. So yeah, it's all a bit concerning. Hello, the young MGTOW. Loving the MGTOW Easy Street. It's a good thing. I mean, like I said, myself, I fully understand the whole men going their own way. It's the environment we're in now is probably more difficult than it's ever been. I would say the end of the 60s started changing the whole structure of the family unit. You got the nuclear family, all that sort of stuff. Everything started changing into this individualism that it's not positive. I mean, it's a very peculiar environment. I mean, the amount of people don't know what they want to do in life, not just work-wise, but literally what they want to do it's peculiar. It's an odd time. I do think there's some fundamental issues that have been introduced by people that really do not understand what they're doing, and more importantly, will not take ownership of what they're doing. I can't really talk about the education environment because I work in the education environment. It wouldn't do me any favors. But what I can say in a broader spectrum of things is there's a lot of people out there that went from school into the education, become very political around feminism, women's rights, whatever, and then started skewing it. And I think this is part of, get back to the Senate, part of the problem. See, when you go and say, I'm not happy with the election, and I think there's an issue with the fraud, and talk in this tone, you're more likely to get shouted down. Now, that's not good politics, to shout somebody down. The question should be, why do you think that? Let's open it up. Let's find out why you think that. Well, I know there's problems with these machines. How did you make sure that they weren't hacked or whatever? Okay, well, this is how it. That's the grown-up conversation piece. I don't think that's going on anymore. I mean, you find the media all seem to be going one direction in each country. It doesn't seem to be as broad about with the information. I will say my personal view is people like good old Murdoch are one of the reasons for that. But at the same time, it's an issue because the problem is if you're not having these discussions, this is how you end up overthrowing the Senate, because there isn't a consultation, there's a confrontation. Because instead of actually going, no, it wasn't fraudulent, blah, 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 it's like, we won, shut up and put up. And that just doesn't work because people become disgruntled and I don't know, overthrow a Senate. It's a bit like the Icelandic banks. They didn't put up and shut up. They overthrow the government. MGTOW guy, I know, right? Yeah. It's. I've got to admit the men that go their own way. I can fully understand it myself. I mean, I'm in a traditional marriage, happily married myself, but I fully understand that if I was in my 20s something now, I would probably stay single, just because I'd have reached this age with a lot more cash in my pocket and at the same time with a lot more hair and less stress. But I've got a fantastic wife, happily married, but a lot of the stuff over the years I could have avoided like the plague, from previous relationships, simply because of the way the structure is. You pay all the bills, all that sort of stuff goes on. I could have avoided it. Simple as that. Darren 2697. I drank everything in 2020. What am I going to drink in 2021? I thought it was going to be a quiet year. I don't think it is. See, there was a bit that they said, this is not only from the BBC, but this come from the UK government and other sources, that you can't keep people in lockdown for too long, and you can't reintroduce lockdowns. And yet we have a UK government that's done it multiple times, and we're already heading into a year of lockdowns, with it now going into another lockdown. There is something that the tinderbox has just got that little bit of sparks, little glimmers of sparks there, because people are becoming disgruntled. And if you cause high unemployment, people start losing their houses and stuff, that's when the game changes. People have got nothing to lose. Once you have nothing to lose, that's when it's all very, very dangerous. That's when governments change. Simple as that. Doesn't even mean that they have a new government to replace it with. If you've lost everything, what you got to lose? And then, which gets back to the Senate. Now, if you have a read of Russia Today, RT.com, on their discussion around the Senate and the way it's overthrown the government and all that sort of, it's interesting to see their perspective. The reason I go to RT today is because it's the complete opposite side of the US media and often Western media. So somewhere in the middle, you've got some truth, but it's nice to see both perspectives there. But yeah, if you do get time, I do recommend having a read of that, because like they're saying, well, America supports overthrowing other governments in this way. They did it in Ukraine, they did it here, they did it. The point being is when people become disgruntled enough, that's exactly what happens. When they were talking about the MPs and the PPE, can I use the word scandal in the UK? Who's been arrested or anything about it? Has it even looked into? My personal thoughts, probably not. It never will be. This express system they introduced couldn't have like usual suppliers that are long term and everything else. There was this express list and whatever. Dominic Cummings, where are you? In my personal opinion, I do think it's a bigger picture with Dominic in there. And although he's disappeared into the background, I don't think he's disappeared from politics. I think it's just that he's gone a bit quiet. at least in the media circuit, because he kept coming to the top. Tingle Tingles, did you have to show your passport when you had your COVID test? No, they just wanted the passport number. They write it down. So you could send your Aunt May to take your test for you, and they probably wouldn't be any the wiser. It's not like they take fingerprints or anything else. It's just like Joe Bloggs booked it. Joe Bloggs, what's your passport number? Okay, off you go. That's it. There was no confirmation it was me. They didn't ask to see any ID. So even if you had COVID and sent somebody else, odds are you would still get on the flight, in my personal opinion. Darren2697, there was a COVID app allow you to travel and not sure on quarantine periods, if at all. Any ideas? Please check your crystal ball. The COVID app, they would have to have a global one. I think it's more likely they will attach something to you, whether it's in your passport or something that will actually say that you've had confirmed test. I think it'll probably not test, sorry. If you've had the vaccine, I think they might stamp the back of your passport or something, because that makes the most logical one for people that are traveling. Going about your daily life, I'm sitting here waiting for the golden words of, we're in a lockdown, you must stay at home unless you've got to go to work and can't work from home. Kids can't go to school unless they can go to school, all that sort of stuff. That finishes off with, unless you've actually had the vaccine, at which point you can do what you like. And that'll be the next selling point of why to maximize the number of people that get the vaccines. That'll be, I can see that coming. In my personal opinion, I can see them going, hey, if you've had the vaccine, you can go shopping, you can do what you like, you can go back to the swimming pool, you can go to the gym, you can go to the pub, you can do that. You've had the vaccine, you'll be all right. I'm waiting for that one. But like I said, from what I was watching the Spanish news, it seems like it's more like the flu type virus. The flu type virus jab, where you turn around, it just doesn't mean that you're going to be affected by it as much. It sounds like it doesn't prevent you getting the vaccine, which means if you can still get it, it means you're still a carrier, surely. Maybe I'm missing something. Eli, the young MGTOW, is this the beginning of the balkanization of the US? I have no idea what's going on. But that's what I say, the US side, I can understand the frustration. I can understand the COVID, the election stuff, all that sort of stuff, because the trust isn't there anymore. We've lost the trust. And whether people want to admit it or not, this is social media. Social media has shifted the way people see media. Because when you used to get your newspaper, people read the newspaper, whatever your political beliefs were, you bought the paper that followed your beliefs, because that's, whether, a lot of the time is the paper your parents read or whatever. So your political views now were already very locked into, this is the way you think. And the media is written that way. Social media has completely thrown that rule book out. I mean, you may not remember when Duterte was elected in the Philippines, the media was showing how great the yellow shirts were doing. And at the same time, the social media from real people was showing the opposite. They were showing rallies where 250,000 people were there, and yet the media was saying there's only 7,700 or something, all this sort of stuff. And the media was used to the max. The problem you've got in the Philippines, with a population of nearly 100 million, nearly everybody's got a camera, nearly everyone's got a mobile phone, everyone's got Facebook, so when they're at a political rally, there's a lot of people there that are unbiased, in the sense of, I'm just videoing what I'm seeing, and suddenly what the media are trying to spout go, nah, that's not true. Although we've just had 15,000 camera feeds showing that what we've said is wrong, it becomes very difficult to undo that. For doesn't matter how big the media group is, because every one of those people, it's like the old sales thing. When you get a bad customer, upset customer, it's 24-fold. So you imagine your cousin's at one of these rallies and he sends you his video feed. You trust him automatically because he's your cousin. And on top of that, it's a live feed. It's not media manipulated. It hasn't had time for media manipulation. It's literally somebody stood there. And then if you go, well, John's here as well, and John puts his camera on as well, funny enough, both feeds are pretty much in sync because it's live. It's not manipulated. And that's the way the media should be getting used, which removes all the lies and the nonsense, manipulations, and all the other stuff that is creating a lot of the uncertainty we're currently having, in my personal opinion. Alvin Crofts too. Huge transfer of money pharma, Amazon. There has been a massive shift in wealth. That is without a doubt. There's no argument on that. Amazon's done absolutely significantly over the whole COVID period. Myself, I'll be honest, I'll probably be getting 3-4 parcels a week from Amazon for months, simply because a lot of time places are open, they're closed, they're open, they're closed. Stick it in the post box. They just knock the door when it's there. So I don't have to even bother thinking about that. The whole shift in society has occurred. Home working, look how that's boomed. For years, I've been fighting in the UK with companies saying home working works, and they're going, but we like to see you in the office. But I'm more productive. I get up at 8 o'clock in the morning in my pajamas, do all my emails, set everything out before everyone starts at 9. Bear in mind, 9 o'clock's when I start. I then go and have a quick shower and come back and wait for the responses on the emails I've already sent out in an hour before I started work. Normally, I'd be up at 6:30 in the morning, getting to the train station or driving to a site. And, your days, instead of being 8 hours, it's 12 hours, 14 hours. And a lot of it is non-productive. It's travel. It's you turn up at work, first thing you do, put the kettle on, see how people got on with the football or whatever or what they did at the weekend, have your coffee. First hour is non-productive. When you're sat on your own at home, 8 o'clock in the morning, kettle's on, already doing my emails, made my coffee, come back, done all the emails, hop in the shower, come back, it's 9 o'clock, ready for my first meeting, and I've already cleared my workload from the weekend. But the point being is, the UK has sort of woken up to this because they spend a fortune on office space that they literally do not need. Don't get me wrong, the internet in Spain I find is way better than the UK. I was shocked when I went back. It's got worse. I mean, how can I leave a country for nearly 12 years and the internet get worse? Here on the coast, it's between 300 and 600 meg internet. I struggled to get 5 in a city. It's absolute madness. You've got little guys throttling it backwards and forwards. Oh, it's a 50 meg connection. No, it's not. It's about 5. Anyway, I'm not getting on to internet providers. Ed Denoy, weed legal in Spain. It's that whole US debate between local and national governments. So it depends who you speak to. Can you have 3 plants in your house that nobody even bothers about? The answer is yes. Are there clubs? They are doing clubs, but some clubs get raided, some don't. It's all a bit peculiar between sort of national government and local governments. But if you're sitting in your home and doing it, I don't think anybody would bother you. And I think you can grow 3 plants. But I do recommend confirming that yourself because I don't know if that's local or national law. Darren 2697, good points there, mate. If you want to be part of society, get your shot and have proof. Life begins. No need to storm into people buildings. yeah, that's it. It's a very odd setup at the minute. It really is. Darren2697. I forgot my name. My name's Matt. Yeah. Bahat John. Sorry, Balut. My glasses are neat and clean. John Baker. Hope it's not a COVID operation, just the A or B flu. I really don't know what this is the thing. I don't think they've spent enough time explaining things properly. It's just go get a vaccine, will you? Hang on, what am I getting? Is there any issues with this? And is it a one-off, or do I need to get this every 6 months or whatever? Just go and get it. Stop moaning. Just go and get it. You're unpatriotic if you don't get it. What do you mean unpatriotic? Yeah, what if it causes issues? You don't need to worry about that. We'll take care of that. Because the point being is, I don't even know what's in it. I mean, I was talking to Carl. They own Kim and Carl own the bar down here, the Sands bar, and they're talking about they found some false positives on the HIV in Australia. Now, I don't know if that's correct or not, but the point being is the fact that somebody says that they're getting false positives instantly, like everything, where do you go to confirm whether that's correct or not? Because the problem is we're losing control of the media. There's a lack of consistent, trustworthy information. Although I would say what is good today, though, I went on Wikipedia around the Senate because my wife asked me when was the last time the Senate was overrun, and it's already been updated for today. So they're on the ball at Wikipedia. So yeah, because I think it was 1812. 1812 was the last time the Senate was burned down. Alvin Crofts 2. US has 330 million folks. India has 1.3 billion folks, and US leads in COVID deaths. Yes, but it's like any statistics and any media information. It's only as good as the information given. Also, when people put these stats up, very rarely do I see where the source of the information is. I mean, I was talking about this earlier about the fact that 40% cases are higher in the UK. Hospitalized cases are higher now than when the first wave hit the UK. Even though the media, when you talk to actually anybody from a professional medical background, will actually say it's still the first wave. It's just continued. It never went away. But ignore that. Shut up what you're saying. Just do as you're told. But the point being is what they're actually saying is it's a constant. But what they're saying now is a second wave to make it like, oh, there's going to be another massive peak. But what you've actually got is, like I was saying earlier, we're in the flu season. If you look at the stats around flu and viruses and the numbers, they've dropped while the COVID ones shot up. You just have to use the laws of averages. I mean, that's where your real stats are. Take the last 5 years and take current year. How far off is it? If they're all aligned, then everything you're being told is utter nonsense. Although people may have COVID as well, but the fact is no less or more people are dying, etc. If you look at it from that perspective, in my personal opinion. But yeah, that's where you take an average view on it. And my personal view is I don't think things are any worse or better than any other year, in my personal opinion. Darren2697, maybe McDonald's is on every corner. Just a thought. Yeah, they may actually turn. That was for Alvin. Yeah, there could be a McDonald's in every corner in India. I remember being in Hong Kong in the 80s and standing outside of McDonald's, and I could see another 3. I remember those days well. Yeah, the good old days. Back when Star Wars was new. Charles Hochstead. Apologies if I got your name wrong. Will Taiwan soon fall to China, followed by Philippines? I do want to emphasize, this is my personal opinion on this. There is a solid expansion from China across the China Seas. And this is where these islands have appeared where they've just stacked them with soil and rock and everything else and built these new islands and stuck a flag on them to lay claim to expand China's borders. Taiwan is sort of sat in that precarious situation where I don't think China really wants to take it, although they're enemies, because obviously it was the movement. Taiwan was the original China. I'll get in trouble for saying that. But that, if you look into it historically, they moved from China to Taiwan. It was the political changes. I don't think they're going to want to invade. China has always been a soft empire. So I do not see it looking to be expansive in that way. What it does is uses its money, it uses the ability to build islands, and it will just expand its borders, but it's not looking for a direct conflict. It will just be very, very manipulative where it can. They've been very busy in Africa. They've been very busy around the globe. But the point is, they're very, very shrewd in doing it without actually getting into a war situation. Historically, I don't think China's actually gone that way in an invasion. Now, don't get me wrong, because good old Genghis Khan, when he popped in, they hired I think they hired 250,000 mercenaries to go and fight off Genghis, and then they all joined Genghis and then ransacked China together. I don't think they work that way. I think historically they never have done, and I think they'll just work financially. They'll be expansive with their technology, but I cannot see them wanting to engage in a war that has a possibility of dragging the West in. Not in the current scenario, anyway. Do I think the West would step in to protect Taiwan in this day and age? I doubt it. The whole Hong Kong scenario was a prime example, and look what's going on there now. I think this week there's been 50 people arrested that are pro-democratic for Hong Kong. The point being is it's not so cut and dry, but I do think China is one of these ones that expand, wait. They're not in a rush to do it. They're not going to be sending their aircraft and aircraft carriers over to invade Taiwan anytime soon, in my personal opinion. Now, it doesn't mean that they're not doing stuff behind the scenes, like trying to get into where Taiwan does business, etc., and trying to manipulate some of that stuff. Because if you can starve another economy, then you won anyway. So yeah, that's my personal view on that. Johnny Five at Charles Houstack. I know of only one case, and that person had other major stuff going on too. Oh, sorry, I missed the other question. Johnny Five. I'm in Wisconsin, USA. COVID. I know of no cases in my circle of friends. See, yeah, I mean, I've got to admit, there's only one person told me about the COVID, and he was on about a relative died of it. And I think it was a grandfather or something, which I would hazard a guess, since the guy I was talking to is about my age. His grandfather would be probably in his 70s. But certainly not heard of anybody in my young age. It has been older people, but virtually very, very few. Don't get me wrong, COVID cases I've heard more of because I work in the education system, and kids by nature are a hotbed for spreading disease because they're always in close proximity of each other. So there's been a lot of cases, but not a lot of mortality rate from it, from what I've seen in my personal experience. Johnny Five, no way in hell will I take that vaccine. They will have to jail me first. Yes, it's like the Marmite video. There's no way I would eat Marmite either. No, I do get the feeling this is the way this is heading, but I could end up eating my words simply because I need to travel. So I'm not planning on having any more kids. Maybe having a third ear may be beneficial. But yeah, my trust is very, very minimal. Johnny Five, I'll pay a doctor 2,000 for false papers if I had to. I'm not putting that poison in my body. I can understand. Yeah, this is the point. There's been a complete lack because the trust is gone. This is where we end up because we can't trust the information we're given. That's the end of it. And they don't sit there and go, why don't people trust us? They just do as you're told. That's what you get. That's why I was sitting looking at Biden today after the Senate thing, and he sounded annoyed and frustrated, and as if he was a principal talking to students. And you're like, it's not going to help the situation. It's more like to inflame it, in my personal opinion. But also, wasn't it not just the Senate? Wasn't there other places already stormed and stuff as well elsewhere in the US today? I'm sure I've seen some stuff around other locations. Johnny Fire, the problem is that the data set itself is completely BS. CDC even said they screwed up the data. Isn't it convenient that it seems that every reliable source has had problems with their data? The UK's had massive problems with their data. Yeah, why has nobody been fired? Or maybe pensioned off early, I guess, in my personal opinion. Eli, the young MGTOW, what country would you recommend to live as a MGTOW man? It depends what you're doing. I mean, if you're a bit of a nomad, a digital nomad, I'd say everywhere, because the whole point is you move around, experience the world, travel, and get the best out of the world. Otherwise, pretty much anywhere, because it's a lifestyle, it's a choice, it's the ability to do what you want to do. That's the whole point. Is you go your own way. Whether you want to go and sail the oceans for 2 years, whether you want to ride across the countries on a motorbike, or whether you want to just stay at home and play video games or whatever. It's a choice. But that's the whole dynamic of it. Alvin Croft 2, the numbers came off CDC. Johnny Five, Alvin Croft 2. Yeah, and the CDC admitted a few months ago the data was wrong. See, the funny thing is, this is the same as the UK, no doubt. The UK seems to have had several lockdowns based on data that has then been proven as incorrect. Yet I'm more likely to get told that I need to do a lockdown and I should shut up and put up, rather than actually saying, I don't think we actually need a lockdown because we need to validate why our data is always wrong, which I think is more important, in my personal opinion. Why is the data wrong? Because either we're lying to the public knowingly, or we're lying because we're incompetent. Either way, it's not good for a government to be seen that way. Blue John Baker, Sweden has the less health problems and has the less vaccines. Yeah, this is the funny thing is people complain about Sweden and then they'll try and find reasons why Sweden's not been affected in the same way. And I think they haven't. My personal opinion is they haven't been manipulating their figures and stuff, which is why they just automatically look better. Yeah, Johnny Five, Sweden also doesn't have a mask mandate either. Yeah, I think they're just riding it out with the what do you call it? The herd immunity, which is historically the way we normally end up going, unless it's something that's I think, what was it? I think it was measles, wasn't it? Wasn't measles a bad one? Was that the one that was related to the Dairy Maids? I remember reading about it when I was about 11. Balut John Bacon, Miami doctor dies within weeks of receiving Pfizer COVID vaccine. Balut John, 56-year-old doctor in perfect health, says his wife. This is the funny thing, but then you'll get the media. This is what I'm saying. Rather than actually looking and thinking, right, why did he die and what was the issues? you're instantly shot down that this isn't true. Just believe what I'm saying, which is what is the problem we've got in media today, in the way journalism is done, the news is done, etc. It's not a case of, okay, is this correct or wrong? No, it's a case of, don't care what you're saying. It's obviously a lie. So you must have the vaccine. And that's the problem. This is where the Senate situation today and everything ends up back, because the trust is gone. On top of that, people are dictating to people rather than looking into it. Johnny Five, the stuff going on in the US right now is crazy. Yeah, I agree. But the UK and other places aren't far off because the trust is going. At the moment, we're in a limbo state in the UK because you've got that mortgage holiday period. Did they call it a holiday period? I don't think did they stop charging you interest on your mortgage is the question. Did they freeze it completely? Because I would hazard a guess the answer is no. But also, you've got a lot of people that are going to be out of work. You've got a lot of people that have been on half pay and whatever. They've been a lot of people that haven't been able to get travel, haven't been able to run their businesses. A lot of people that can manage maybe 18 months on this scenario, but we're now going into year 2. What happens when that gets to a point where people have lost everything? That's the scary bit. That's where things are heading at the moment. And that's what's bothering me at the minute, because the US situation, I don't think the UK is that far behind, in my personal opinion. And that's the bit we've got to be careful with. Johnny 5, Kansas Senate building was also stormed by protesters. The riots in Portland have been going on for months, but the media no longer reports it. Now, funny enough, the Portland's always an interesting place, but the fact is, the protests in Paris, even in London, in Spain, they've all been very, very quiet in the media. Yeah, we know there's been full-blown rioting going on, but it doesn't really get any coverage at all. It's often platforms like YouTube that actually have the information, but not one media group that I've seen has actually reported the same information. Darren 2697, Vegemite is far superior than Marmite. Look, Matt, I'll make a Vegemite sandwich for you. Australians love Vegemite. I can't touch any of that stuff. I just don't get it. It's not for me. Balut John Baker, my wife has a lot in Valencia, close to Dumagetti. I'll be there someday. Oh, what, Marmite? Vegemite. Charles, who's that? Johnny 5, agree. I'm not taking a crap vaccine for a new flu bug. As far as I can tell, the USA is now socialist. I think there's a new evolution of politics that's occurring. I don't think they're true socialists. In the same way, it's not true. It's not even crony capitalism. Never mind capitalism. It's not even crony capitalism. It's a very peculiar environment we're in. We have a lot more media control and a push on media in a certain direction than we've ever had in history. Because, like I said before, you used to get your newspaper, whether you're left wing, right wing, or whatever, you had your newspaper, and it was very one-dimensional. Now you have platforms where people can discuss things, and they know how to get people streamlined. And then when they look at is it Cambridge Analytica or Oxford Analytica, on how they manipulated people for the elections, not just in the UK. Well, there was the whole Brexit thing, the Trump election, all the stuff that was going on. Just shows you how easily data can be manipulated. And that's where a lot of the trust is gone. You know, it's where things get a bit peculiar and people become a bit more concerned about their environment. Don't get me wrong, a lot of people go, well, I'm not really fussed, it ain't going to affect me. But eventually this stuff does affect you. This COVID situation is affecting every person on the planet pretty much at the minute. You can't avoid it. Whether you like it or not, you can't avoid it. Whether it's just going to the pharmacy, whether it's going out for a drive in the car. You know, you can't leave Valencia region here in Spain, where regions in a lockdown. So although we say, well, it doesn't affect, everything affects us at some point. Jasmine McKean, hey, how's it going? Hi, Matt. A 41-year-old healthcare worker also died 2 days after vaccine. Actually, there has been several, however, not all covered in the media. I believe that was a female health worker because I was, funny enough, that was, no, I don't, like I said, I'm very open on media simply because I can't trust most of the sources these days unless I go and research it myself. But I remember seeing that the post of that in a Facebook group, where one of the comments instantly said, "Nobody's died of the vaccine. Nobody." And I'm sitting there going, "Well, that's a pretty bold statement, because with a lot of the vaccines out there that are routine, there's deformities, there's deaths, there's all these other issues, but somebody on Facebook is 100% nobody's died of this vaccine. We've got an expert in the room." But yeah, when you see that, and this is what I'm saying, the problem you've got is you can't have a proper debate, but you can't go, well, where's your evidence on that? In fact, I'll start you off with how many vaccines have been taken globally, and have they all been documented that everybody was in good health and blah, blah, blah. The answer is they wouldn't know. They wouldn't have that information. So instantly, it's a nonsense statement. But they would then become on the defensive and start arguing with you rather than just going, yeah, I haven't actually checked my facts. I don't have that information in front of me. I don't know. And that's the problem. But yeah, I read the same article. But this is the peculiar point, is the media coverage on this, like you say, it's almost nothing. They don't want to talk about it. And as soon as you start talking about it, you're the bad guy. You are the bad. You're unpatriotic. You hate your country. All this sort of stuff is the ramblings you get. And it's the same. I mean, whether I like it or not, you get the same on feminism. You get the same on equality and diversity. Because one of my arguments I've always said to people is, because I work in the corporate world, you can't have diversity and equality in the same sentence. And they're like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I says, well, if I employ somebody for diversity and the other person's got the same skill set, then that's not equality. You've hired them out of diversity, not equality. So you can't have the two. You're either being equal or not. No, it's not like and you're just like, it's exactly like that. They shouldn't be in the same sentence, because you can't do both at the same time. But yeah, it's quite funny we get into these conversations because people really struggle to try and justify it, because there is no justification. You know, you're either diverse or you're equal. Equality is equality of output. You know, if somebody is being employed for a certain job and they do the same job, that's equality. Don't care where your background is, what your color is, whether you decide to be a man, woman, or liquid gel today or whatever. As long as the job's done, I don't care. That's my view. I'm not interested. I don't need to know the background on somebody. I just want them to do a job. That's all I'm asking. I do think we take too much of people's information into a work environment, because a lot of this stuff is none of our business. It's not to be inclusive and all this, you know. I'm not. Inclusive is everyone comes to work, does their job, and goes home. If they want to be part of a community group, that's fine. But I'm not talking about a community group. This stuff is forced into business. But a lot of time, we don't need to know. I don't care. You know, if someone says, well, I didn't ask. Don't want to know. I don't want to know your wife's name, your kid's name, and I'm not asking. I just want the work I asked for to be done by Friday. That was it. Beyond that, don't care. And I think this is where some of these problems come from. Alvin Crofts too. Trust is gone. Media the same. Social media fact checkers are making it worse. Yeah, the fact checkers are a peculiar group because there's some of those you can't trust either, and they've been proven to be wrong. It's This is the problem. It's all been dismantled and then just sort of thrown back together and then manipulated to suit. And then you're sitting there going, well, I don't know what's right or wrong anymore. And it's not because I'm an idiot. It's because I do my research, but you then get contradictions. And like I say, when you sit there and you go, right, let's look at the sentence structure. When I go possible, maybe, could be, likely, our sources, and all these other get out of jail free cards. The media is not 100%. It is not factual. It's possible, likely, assumed, but not fact. Balut John Baker, a couple of years ago, North Dakota tried to pass a bill that made it was okay to run over a protester while you're with your vehicle. It did not get passed. If you run over a protester and kill them, you would not get in trouble. Yeah, I mean, myself, if your life was in danger, in the sense of it was a violent mob and they're hitting your car with baseball bats, it's a little bit different to somebody standing in front of you with a placard. I've got to say that they're two different environments, and I think this is the thing. It's got to be defined on circumstances, and that's where there is a default. If you believe your life is being a threat, because I'm trying to think where this was. There is because in the UK, you can actually make a statement that you feel harassed, and if you make that very clear, and people don't back off, then they've already put you in a very positive position legally, because you've told them that you feel scared, vulnerable, and asked them to back away. At which point, if you make it loud, other witnesses. At which point, if they don't, balls in your court. So yeah, it's the legal system is a precarious one. It's never cut and dry. There's always contradictions in there. It's often a case of how good your lawyer is. Johnny Five at Charles Hochstadt. The Democrats have full control of all levels of government now. The US is going to change in a big way over the next 4 years. I think we're seeing it everywhere, to be honest, though. I think we have. I mean, one of the things I will say about Spain is because of the way the government works here, I actually like it, because it's often blocked by each other. So very little changes. Don't get me wrong, it is a very socialist country, but at the same time, like, for example, rights on the ownership of properties for a tenant, tenants got more power than the landlord. That is often not favorable. And I believe that's probably some of the issues in the country. Myself, in my personal view, is nothing negative about the government, but at the same time, that's one of the issues you do get. You end up with more people interested in renting than owning, for example. I think France is another one that's got high rental over ownership. But at the same time, I do think because they can stagnate the political arena, it's often better. If things ain't changing and just stuck in limbo, I do find that works better than most things. Charles Hochstadt, Johnny Five, I'm staying home for the next 2 months, remodeling fast as possible, sell my home before values crash, in my opinion. I do think there is some price movement coming. I was thinking we're going to be out of this COVID situation by March, because the vaccine had been forced on people by then, in my personal opinion, in some form. But I do get the feeling the way the UK government's talking, we'll be having the same conversation this same time at the end of the year. It just feels that way at the moment. Charles Hookstad, no, I'm a general building contractor. The winners write the books. Funny enough, that's what I said to somebody this morning about one of the people that were killed at the Senate because I said, oh, they were a criminal, da, da, da. And I said, they're a criminal depending on who wins. You know, if suddenly there's a shift in government, they're a martyr to victor the spoils. You write history. So yeah, it is the victor writes the history. Yeah, the winner cooks the books. They do that as well. Although to be fair, I think the UK is still paying off its Napoleonic debt from the Napoleonic Wars. But bearing in mind, your creditors, even though we're the winners, because we were successful in winning, the bankers still weren't paying. Where if you lose, you go back to zero. Hence, Germany, after World War II, seemed to recover extremely well. Same as Japan. Johnny 5 at Charles Schuster. I've considered moving to South Dakota. Johnny 5, Spain is on my list of countries to visit. Yeah, I love Spain. Don't get me wrong, there is some people here that can be quite racist and whatever, but very few. And they're normally disgruntled and probably about 70 years old. But for them, just smile and say, I love you. You're a great person. Because if you want to annoy somebody, just be happy around them. Charles Hustat, Johnny 5, I'm in far north, Wisconsin. I have a modest lake home, 7 acres, 260. I think, is that 260 feet? Water frontage, riots are driving up my house value. But I must sell fast before prices poop out. I do think there is going to be some changes. I mean, there's a few things going on at the moment that aren't even getting looked at in the sense of warnings. People are out of work and stuck at home. The manufacturing, everything's down at the moment, although it does seem that a lot of manufacturing is actually busy, but I think it's down to lower production. In the sense of a company may normally run 4 shifts and they're running 2. You've got people on these mortgage holidays, which may also be out of work. You've got landlords that are struggling to get paid. And I know several in the UK that are struggling now because they do it as a business. And as such, they've leveraged too much debt. They're relying on the tenants. Tenants aren't in work. Tenants are locked down. Tenants can't go to work because the where they work is closed, and they can't evict them because I think the UK already has made it impossible to evict people, if it's COVID related at least. So the point being is there's a whole realm of stuff where there will be a shift of some description. Now, when that happen, no idea. Because if they keep this in limbo for another 6-12 months, it's going to be over the next year. When that occurs, no idea. I can't see it being a year later. It's going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months. But I do think that could actually crash the economies if it does occur. Sorry, is it going to be does or when? Difficult one to assume, because obviously the lending for governments at the moment is out of control. So I do expect that we're going to have tax hikes in the UK. No doubt everyone else is going to be having some heavy tax hikes. So I do think we're in the middle of some serious changes, and none of them positive at the moment. But anyway, all I can say is, on a positive note, is we just got to keep moving forward with it. With the media stuff, just be a bit wary on the information. I know a lot of you guys already are, but I do find that it's very focused. I mean, this is the odd thing, because when you look at media and you find, like today, it's probably only going to be talking about COVID and the Senate. I think there's been some elections in the US. The US media is only going to be focused on those 3 items. The UK will be COVID, the Senate, and Boris Waffle. we're not actually talking. I mean, I can't even call that news. I'd just call that a summary because they've only picked up 3 or 4 stories, and that's about it. Hang on a second. Tingles. I've noticed in Spain and Portugal, the properties seem to be overrun with pine furniture. How many pine forests were destroyed in the Spanish property boom in the 90s? To be fair, pine's fast growing. I used to work in the pine industry. I used to make pine furniture. I think they have. I'm trying to think where it is. There's a guy who does this eco climate stuff. Who was on about this because they're encouraged to grow pine. Where I can't remember where it is in Scandinavia, but pine grows very fast, and they're actually encouraged to grow a phenomenal amount of this stuff. So I would say there's a lot of man-made forests that have recouped that pine. It's nothing to worry about. If you'd actually turn around and ask me about oak or something else, I'd have concerns. But with pine, they grow a phenomenal amount of it. Johnny 5, very informative stream. Yeah, thanks, appreciate it. Yeah, it's been bugging me because I try not to do these political ones because I see some of the other ones and I'm like, I can't be bothered to listen to it. People have a bit of a moan, but I've tried to construct it in a way that's sort of trying to sort of say that, I do think there's an end, there is light at the end of this tunnel, but just no idea what that looks like. And I don't think we have a solid structure, what it should look like at the moment. It just all seems to be very changes on a daily basis, but it does sound like for the UK at least they're talking another 12 months. I do think the Senate scenario in the US will have sparked some warnings in the US today. Be interesting to see where that goes, because if they start rounding people up that they think might be disenfranchised and likely to go against the government, then that may be a game changer in the US. But we'll see what happens with that. Charles Hastad, North and Wisconsin, help wanted signs everywhere, but now after today, aka Biden president, no idea how our economy will be heading. Yeah, but I think we're all in the same scenario, really are. The UK, I find construction's very busy at the moment. I find home working scenarios have changed, which is for me, for my benefit, as long as I can actually get work to agree for me to do it from Spain. But I do think there's going to be some massive repercussions for basically a year stuck in limbo, and we're now heading in year 2. The light at the end of the tunnel is probably going to be 2022. And that's a scary thought financially, because I've got to admit, I'm in a ring-fence contract. I work for the state. My budget's already set for at least another 14 years. So I've probably got more job security than most people. But I was hoping to actually get more done, because I'm trying to do some of my own development stuff. But I keep getting stuck in places. When I go back to the UK, I can guarantee if I get forced to have this test, right? If you have this negative COVID test, I'm forced to have this negative COVID test to go back to the UK. I can guarantee I will still have to do a 14-day quarantine because of certain rules within some of the organizations I work with. Because I look after 43 schools, and they're not all under the same ownership. There are different trusts and whatever, and they've all got different rules, and they will not have adapted for anybody that's had a vaccine, even if you were forced to have it, or even a negative test. They'll go, well, if you come from abroad, on here, line 1 says if you come from abroad, 14 days quarantine. So I might as well just say, I don't want the test. I'm going to end up getting quarantined anyway. And guess what? I'm working from home anyway. Doesn't really make any difference to me. Yeah, Johnny 5, Charles Hookstad, my property is close to the city, so my value is going up too, but it'll probably drop by the end of the year. Yeah, that's a good prediction. I mean, this is the thing right now. I think we've got 6 months of another limbo. So a lot of stuff will just sit there. If your business isn't bankrupt now, you're probably going to be able to ride out another 6 months. But my cheap airline, I think, can only last another year, maximum of 2 years, before they start going bust. So this has massive implications because I think, good old O'Leary from Ryanair, he owns his aircraft, which is why he can do this. A lot of other operators lease their aircraft, so when they're sat on the runway, they're costing a fortune. He can ride it for 2 years, which means some of these other companies must be nearly bust already. It's not good. A little bit selfish for me, but I live in Spain, so I need to be able to commute. But I don't think there's any positive aspects. I mean, if companies that sort of size aren't getting assisted and tax freezes or something to help keep them afloat, it's going to take at least 3 years recovery after we come out of this whole COVID scenario. And that's not including anything else like the Senate being overrun and it escalates to something bigger. And the UK does the same if that happens. Because you've suddenly got this changes in politics at the same time. It's a massive upheaval. I mean, it's a bit like the Brexit. I mean, I keep hearing, oh, no, Brexit's not going to affect stuff. There's a problem with post at the moment coming from the UK, from what I hear. Maybe somebody can fill me in on that because I believe there's no post going backwards and forwards. Even these negative, positive COVID tests going in and out of the UK, they're looking at making truck drivers exempt. Isn't that 5,000 or 10,000? I'm not sure if it's trucks a week or a day. So they're exempt, but other travellers aren't. It's all a bit peculiar. Johnny Five, did Brexit ever get completed? Let's put it this way. I'm part of. Yeah, seems like Brexit is always in progress. It's a funny one because, funny enough, people are already talking about the next election, about rejoining the EU, because I'm in a lot of groups because I listen to both sides. Like I say, I try and just sit back and listen to it and try and pick at the facts. But it does sound like there will be a bit of a bid towards the next election, whatever goes there, when Boris is eventually out, to try and be pro-EU. So there is other stuff going on in the background. I'm sure your crypto spreadsheet has brought some light into your life lately. My crypto has not been too bad. I haven't invested as much as I should have done, but to be fair, I'm sitting on a fair chunk of money I've made this year and last year. So although I haven't got as much in crypto as I would have liked, I'm in the middle of trying to buy a property. So I need to accumulate a substantial amount of cash. But also it needs to sort of sit in the bank to reinforce it with the bank, because it's going to be twice as much money I need. So yeah, I could have trebled my money, let's put it that way, but I haven't. It was just bad timing, but I don't see it as a write-off or wrong. I mean, I did 110,000 euros in 1 year, a profit, so I can't grumble. I'll catch up in the next run. Simple as that. I'll just wait for the next run to occur, which it will do. I mean, I think all these negative aspects are some of the stimulus that's helped push the crypto markets up. But that's also been available in Forex. I know Stephen's got a Forex system that's producing about 5% profit a month. I was also talking to Justin the other day. Justin's accumulated what would that be? It's about 12. He's done about 8 to 10% in a few months on a reasonable investment. I'm not going to talk about money wise because it's not my money to discuss, but the markets, there has been money to be made in the markets because volatility is where the cash is. I mean, Amazon, this is the funny one. They keep pumping Amazon when you look at the ads, Amazon, Amazon, Amazon. And you're like, yeah, but Amazon's it's already had its growth. If you'd asked me 18 months ago, invest in Amazon, we wouldn't have been aware of this situation. But if you had then, that's when it would have been worth investing in. Now it's already shooting for the moon. I don't think it's got to level off. Don't get me wrong, it's still going to keep growing steadily. But at the same time, the boom, it's got its boom. When things go back to normal, whatever normal looks like, you may actually find it tailors off and drops a little bit, because myself, I like shopping. I like going into shops. I also find that, for example, I won't buy a mobile phone off Amazon. I find there's a lot of second-hand or repaired or in some goods. So I generally will buy electronics in a store because I know who I bought it from. I can see that person. So substantial purchase, I try to do it face to face. But yeah, ring lights like this and microphones, all this sort of stuff, I'll go and buy on Amazon. And people have been buying literally anything on Amazon to save actually going out the house. I can't even think what the smallest items we've had. I think one of the ones we've got coming this week is sushi wraps, for making the sushi. But it was ordered with a new kettle and some other bits and pieces. But yeah, Amazon, I think there was opportunity in there, but there's a risk of that slowing down a bit now, because there's so much money. I know so much stuff you can order online, and we're already talking about the fact that maybe a recession, depression, and all that sort of stuff coming on in the background. So if that hits the masses, then obviously there will be some pullback on that business. At which point, guess when is the best time to invest? Anyway, guys, I'm going to call it a day. That's an hour and a half. I only was going to have a 30-minute one this morning, but like I said, I've been listening to some of the stuff online. It was just sort of, I do think there's a lot more going on than we're seeing. I do think there is going to be a push, and I do stress, this is my personal opinion, there is going to be a push to force this vaccine on as many people as possible. But it may not be a case of holding you down and making you get it. It may be literally a case of trying to shame you into having it, which is political agenda. Johnny 5, thanks for the stream. Very informative. Thanks for being here, Johnny, and thanks for everybody else. I really appreciate all your comments, and I appreciate your time. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you do want to comment afterwards, leave the comments in there. There may be enough for another live stream later. Take care, guys, and have a great one. Yeah, totally. Only if you want to travel through an airport. At the moment, I'll finish on this one. In Birmingham, they did this test and eat scenario where if you got tested and it was negative, you could eat in the restaurants. Now, this is only one step from that. Have a vaccine and go and eat. It's only one step over. And that's where they can sort of try and steer it. Not saying they will do it, but that's where there's a risk that they will try and influence things, because that's politics for you. Yeah. Charles Halstack, Salamat, Paul. Salamat to you as well. Have a great one. And thanks for watching, guys. Catch you all later. Take it easy.